It starts with analyzing your strengths and weaknesses and what are the growth areas you want to aim.
Doron Simon, thank you so much for being on 20-Minute Leaders. It's so gracious of you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we know each other through J Ventures, the wonderful early stage venture capital firm here in Silicon Valley, a capitalistic kibbutz. You're very recently a venture partner there, an LP in the screening committee. But besides that, you have a ton of experience working with two incredible public companies on growth and strategy, Tower Semiconductor and NICE. And I'd love to spend this episode talking about just that, strategy and growth, and sort of the back scenes of what drives these companies to success.
I love to share my experiences with that opening.
And incredible. So, Doron, let's just start. Give me a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? What excites you? How do you even get to do what you did?
So, grew up in Israel, as you can detect from the accent. I moved here as part of Tower Semiconductor when Silicon Valley was still about silicon and semiconductors. And this was around 2001.
Did Silicon Valley, was it actually mainly about chips and silicon?
It was all about chips a while back, and not too far
Finally,
back.
I get it.
So, yeah.
23 years later. Okay.
Amazing. This is after the standard career, army, and going to study in the Technion and starting some jobs in tech. And over here, I spent some time running Tower USA as president and VP marketing, and also in between Tower and NICE, I had a stint as a consultant for 6 years with early stage companies. So I've worked quite a bit with the go-to-market strategies for early-stage companies of all types.
Right. Okay, and it's just very quickly, go-to-market strategy in 2 words. What does that mean for you?
So for the early-stage stuff, it's something that many of the companies have typically a need, or they recognize a need, but they don't have a defined product necessarily, or defined how you sell it, how you package it, what is the product, is it a service, is it something tangible?
So even if they do have a product, there's not necessarily a strategy of how do you get this product to fulfill this need.
Yeah, we call it product market fit in the textbooks, but it's a phase where you have to share what you think with potential customers and get feedback and at least hone on your first version, the minimum viable product. With software, it's easier. It's very easy to set up and test. When you involve hardware or things that are developed in the physical world, it's much tougher. So I did a lot of both more complicated machines typically.
Okay, and then how do you go from that to growth strategy, M&A, because that's really the next part of the life cycle of a startup, right?
Yeah, so the way I look at it, probably strategy and M&As are the least discussed realities in the call it venture ecosystem. When you look at it from the startup side, I'll start with that. Statistically, most startups would end their life as part of an M&A if they are lucky. Very few actually make it all the way to an IPO, and many fall on the way. But M&A is a big piece of the outcome of a startup, and startups don't gear up and don't build themselves towards an M&A. And there is basically an art to how you do it right. We leave that for later. From a company that is established point of view, once you have crossed a certain threshold, and this is typically in the already multi-million-dollar type revenue, so call it 10, 15, 20, and you start to grow, there's quite a bit of runway which you can do by focusing on what you set up the company to do initially.
Right.
and then starts to be a more strategic approach of growth that could be coming out of outside of your core. How do you accelerate? How do you address non-core either features or markets? How do you respond to market changes? How do you hedge risks? And you get to the more creative side of business development, which is either partnerships, strategic partnerships, co-development, and eventually M&As. And in M&As, you're either being acquired or being the acquirer.
So hold on, this is really complicated because what you're essentially saying is, let's look at a life cycle of a startup. We're starting out, we're running the company, we're controlling the product, we're the ones selling it, and then we reach a point in time where we are making enough revenue, you said 10, 15, 20 million, and we have to start making these creative decisions of how do we position ourselves as key players, and how do we collaborate and work with potentially other key players, either as partnerships, mergers, or acquisitions, right? So that is the interesting phase of Mind Switch. We're not alone in this. Now we're in the big players league, and we can actually work with others and provide value to others.
Yeah. That's exactly right. The threshold could vary quite a bit. So it could happen in 15, it could happen in 150. But in order to cross the billion, and the two companies that I've had my longest career runs with are at $1.5 billion run rate. To get to the billion league, and this is in sales, not in valuation. It's not the unicorn billion. It's the actual sales, revenue generating sales.
Per year?
You can get a little bit more than just your initial momentum.
So you mean that was $1.5 billion yearly revenue?
Yeah.
That's insane. So you were essentially helping lead growth and strategy in two companies that are public, and they're generating over $1 billion in revenue a year. So not their market cap is $1 billion, but they're generating $1 billion in revenue, which means you have a lot of things you can do.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
And that's where you come in. So you generate cash. Typically, you get out of the cash starvation mode.
Right.
But you still need to use it wisely. And you need to make sure that every dollar you invest brings you much more than that dollar worth in future returns.
What is that role, strategy and growth? Like how do you even study for that and prepare for that?
So there is no official title for it. Many MBAs would eventually end up doing pieces of that.
Right.
But the role is basically something that you develop within big corporations. There's no playbook or school to go to besides gaining experience. And essentially every CEO or business leader that is taking a company to that journey of $1 billion company comes across the need for that. How you do it is different. How you do it is could vary from one company to another in a substantial way, but it's
you want to get it right.
Standing at the core, what is your market, what is your strength, and in a very realistic assessment, what you're missing and what you can get better outside, which is the first part. That's what I call the easy part. And when I say easy, it's still hard work.
Yeah.
You need to remember that for every M&A that happens out there, there's probably 10, 15, or 20 that you looked at and you passed for various reasons before you decide to pull the plug on a single M&A in a corporate. And then comes the hard part, which is the execution, the integration into a big company. There's a lot of aspects to consider when you integrate: cultural, work environments, just different lexicon, different lingo, although you may be in the same market. A lot of little details that basically are planned to guarantee that the M&A is eventually successful. And
okay, so give me a couple of those earned secrets from your experience in watching M&As and different deals come about. What because a lot of them are not successful, right? We hear all the time of these different acquisitions who turn out the technologies didn't integrate and the cultures were too different, or maybe financially it just didn't make sense. How can we even start to evaluate ahead of time whether an M&A will be successful or not?
So first, statistics in the big world works against you. It's similar to startups.
Really? Most M&As fail.
Yeah, it depends whose book you read, but statistically, beyond 50% fail or don't achieve the original targets.
Wow.
And it does take a lot of discipline and a lot of planning to do it right. I believe that also you have to consider the post-merger activities with a lot of what you call EQ, emotional IQ,
Yes.
and treat
Yes.
people in a way that basically shows them the way in joining a bigger company as a career opportunity rather the end of the journey. And a lot of startups are kind of, call it, triggered by the fact that when they sell out, it's the end of the journey as opposed to a start of a new journey, which is where some of the benefits could be reaped by the bigger company. So,
Of course.
unless you buy technology, if you want to buy a business and continue to operate and grow it, you have to keep the team motivated. You have to get them into your family, and you have to learn how to leverage each other's strength, which is a very, in a way, it's a tough process for every human being. It's like switching families.
Well, no, I mean, you see a lot of different extremes. You see some companies, after they perform an acquisition, they keep the other company as a separate entity completely, maintaining their culture and their DNA. You see others that are absorbing them and bring them directly into their offices and, change from now on, your company X, before you were Y. Is there now an insight into how do you do that best? Or is it a case-by-case basis, really?
To me, and this is coming from a company that did M&As at the rate of, let's call it on average 3 or 4 a year, there's no playbook per se, and
Right.
you adjust the case for the company, and it's also a case of, the acquirer, who is the business owner that gets to run the acquisition, and, ideally you can buy something and run it as a standalone company if everything is perfect.
Right.
But it's not the only playbook. If you're talking about serial acquirers, people like Cisco at the times, Oracle, Salesforce, they're more operating based on playbooks and cumulative history that is just sheer numbers. But again, I do feel that when you do a major acquisition, when you go into something that is transformational, and I was involved in something like that at NICE, you have to call it prepare its own playbook. You can't just open a generic one and say, this is my way.
Interesting. I want to go a little bit back to growth, because now I'm asking for some personal tips. I wish for myself that I'll get to a position sooner rather than later that I grow a startup that has made a positive impact, has generated revenue, and now I'm at a position in a leadership role where I can now leverage my new cash flow to grow the company and to think more broadly about how do we become a key player. What are some of the key challenges or opportunities for a young entrepreneur who has never experienced this before, right? You have a lot of CEOs that all of a sudden fall into they have a SaaS platform that generates a lot of revenue, and now they have to make these strategic decisions. So how can I best position myself when I get to that position, if I get to that position, to make the right decision?
So it is quite, call it mundane. When you talk about strategy, there's a clear way of working out a strategy. It starts with analyzing your strengths and weaknesses and what are the growth areas you want to aim.
Right.
You talk to customers all the time. This is something a CEO knows very well how to do. And when you talk to customers and actually listen to them, not just talk to them, and a startup CEO, by the way, they talk first because they're used to selling mode, educating the market on a new thing. At a certain point in time, you have to start to listen and pick up clues. What's missing in features? What's missing in complementary product? I've seen this company doing a great job that works together with your product side by side. Maybe you want to talk to them to see if you can cooperate.
Right.
You have to be very attentive to clues like that in order to develop that what I call non-organic strategy and start to address. You have to know your market. You have to know the ecosystem. You have to know what your competitors are doing. And the role of that strategy function or business development function is to kind of collect all of these inputs and roll them into one coherent strategy and a plan.
Okay, so it's not just going with your co-founders to the beach over a weekend on a retreat and then talking about some strategy. I'm kidding, of course, but that's what they show in the movies, at least. Doron, I also want to talk, because you're coming from Israel, and one of the things that a lot of people are saying, the startup nation is fantastic, and there's so many great companies. And I've also heard the term exit nation roll around a few times, and it seems like there is sort of a different mentality, especially when it comes to this growth and M&A stage, between a lot of Israeli companies and companies that are founded and based in the US. Do you also see some difference, or is there any difference in mindset in that regard?
I think there is a difference of mindset, and there are many factors that could be attributed to that. But first, there is a change. In the recent years, you're seeing more companies break that, call it $1 billion in sales ceiling.
Amazing,
getting to be more common that things like that would happen.
Right.
But there is also an ecosystem that you need to work with when you do those M&As and strategic moves, and this is something that could involve bankers and investors, access to capital, and sometimes in the Israeli ecosystem, it's a very local community. They don't think as much about that piece of the growth as the US-oriented bankers and financial ecosystem around companies. So it's not an Israeli mentality per se. You've got a lot of very good Israeli founders that do it here in a different way. But the Israeli ecosystem, I don't think, is developed yet enough to address all of these, call it, auxiliary needs.
Okay, so you're thinking about it in the realm of the Israeli ecosystem, which is, because you need a lot of moving players to get to a growth mindset, and to get mindset in terms of your ability to actually grow a company to that level and get to an M&A. And it's more about the maturity of all the players around, not just the founders themselves.
Absolutely, and you've got very sophisticated set of VCs which have that, call it 10 to 12 years runway mentality, and somebody needs to take it from there. And this is typically either private equities or bankers or other, call it, pieces of that ecosystem.
Fascinating. I mean, this is just also, it sounds like there's so many moving pieces, and it's so much more complicated than just this young and hardy notion of let's just create a company and grow it to be $1 billion. No, you actually get to real stuff that you have to consider, a lot of moving pieces, and it's not just about the founder, it's not just about the company, it's also about your whole market and where you position it. What excites you? What like you see so many companies, you worked with so many. What really excites you on the day-to-day?
So first, every time I see a new founder with a new idea that kind of resonates with me, it excites. It excites and gets you energized just because you just identify with what they are creating or about to create. Besides that, I love to see a plan comes through. Okay, I love to see a plan that you put 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, and all of a sudden you look back and say, it actually worked. It was a playbook.
Wow.
And this is something that is very, very satisfying and exciting.
I'm sure.
And besides that, a deal. Every time you're involved in a deal, that's an exciting phase.
How many exciting deals would you say you've been involved with over the years?
I would say it's probably north of 30.
North of 30 deals?
Yeah, some of them are small, some of them are bigger, but yeah.
Wait, Doron. What's small? What's a small deal?
Small could be an acquisition that is an acqui-hire or technology acquisition that you do just for a tuck-in. Typically, you don't hear about those. Those are the typical quiet ones. And some of them could be much, much bigger, much more involved, much more complicated.
I'm sure. Well, Doron, just to give context, I mean, the majority of people in the tech industry, especially entrepreneurs and tech executives, wish they would be a part of a single great deal throughout their life. So just listening to you, I'm getting so much insight, and seeing you've gone through more than 30 deals, whether they're big or small. I mean, that's just so inspiring. Doron, we only have just a few minutes left, but I love to ask this last question, everybody. And I'd love to know 3 words that you would best use to describe yourself. I'm especially curious. I hear from people of all industries. So what are your 3 words?
3 words. One for sure would be foresight.
Foresight. What does that mean? Explain.
Being able to look ahead.
Okay.
Behind the curve. So foresight, I would say you have to have tenacity to last in this industry, do what I do. And the underrated one of all is team player. I think that's critical to be a team player.
You mentioned right before we started the call that one of the things that you are very proud of is that a lot of the great successes you've been a part of, it's not necessarily that you had to be, the founder, the leader, but sometimes you were the guy in the back, behind the scenes, that was really thinking things through and allowing for the great deals to happen. But at the end, you're a team player. That's how you identify yourself, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of business development guys are in the shadows for many, many reasons. But I've met over my career some great ones, and they're all able to foresee and execute.
I love it. Doron, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the inspiration. And I'm just going to have to see you around in the J Ventures meetings.
Yeah. I can't wait to see you face-to-face again. Thank you.
Take care.